Hello students, we are going to discuss topic motion in this discussion. Before that, we'll discuss about some of the basic concepts of physics. Like first, we'll discuss about physical quantities. We mean by physical quantity which can be measured using a suitable method and some suitable tools. For example, mass, velocity, energy, temperature, these are some of the physical quantities. Later you will study more. The next term we will discuss the measurement. It is the process of comparing unknown value of a physical quantity with its known value. This is how do we understand that if you have to measure the length of a table, you have to measure its length by comparing the length with the help of a known value like 1 meter. This will give you the complete measurement of the length of the table. The next is representation of a physical quantity. For representing the quantity, we use this format, where Q is the physical quantity, N is the magnitude, and U is the unit. This is how we represent the physical quantities. After that, we'll discuss about classification of physical quantities, which is done in two categories. The one is fundamental quantities and the other one is derived quantities. Fundamental quantities are those quantities which do not depend on any other quantity. And derived quantities are those quantities which depend on fundamental quantities. Now, fundamental quantities include 7 quantities which are indicated over here. You can go through it. And excluding these 7 fundamental quantities, all other quantities fall in the category of derived quantities. This is how do we understand the fundamental. Now, let's have discussion about the terms rest and motion. A body is said to be in rest when it does not change its position with respect to time and surrounding. For example, if you are looking looking at a tree from your balcony, after some time the tree will be at the same spot. After one day also it will be at the same spot. Time proceeds, but the object remains at the same position. This is the rest position. A body is said to be in motion if it is changing its position with respect to time and surrounding. For example, if sitting in your gallery you are watching a moving car, its position goes on changing with time. This is example of body in motion. Now, another important discussion is rest and motion are relative terms. This is due to the fact that if being of any object in rest or motion, it depends on who is the observer and the observer's frame of reference. For example, if you are watching a tree and say there is a man standing near to the tree, then with respect to that man, the tree will be at rest. But the same tree will be in motion with respect to another observer who may be there inside a moving car. That's why moving car. So accordingly, we say rest and motion are relative terms. In the continuation of the discussion, the next topic is distance and displacement. Distance means it is the length of the actual path followed between any 2 points, whereas displacement is shortest distance covered between 2 points in a particular direction, that is in straight line direction. Some more differences between the two terms have been shown here in this table. You can go through it. Distance is scalar quantity, displacement is vector quantity. Distance never can be zero, it can be zero like displacement. Then distance is either equal to or greater than displacement, and displacement is either equal to or less than the distance. Let's have a look over a sample question now. Now this sample question is like this. A person starts from position A and covering 10 km due west reaches at a point B. He then covers 20 km due south and reaches at position C. Finally, he covers 5 km due east and reaches at point D. Calculate distance and displacement covered by the person. Let's have its solution. In the solution to the given numerical has been described here with the help of this diagram. The body is starting from point A, then covering 10 km reaching to point B, then covering 20 kilometer in the south direction, it is reaching to point C, and finally again towards east direction covering 5 kilometer, it is reaching to D. So A is the initial point and D is the final point. Distance will be the addition of all these segments like AB, BC, CD, and that stands equal to 35 kilometer. For calculating displacement, you have to calculate the value of this AD line, and that can be done with the help of Pythagoras theorem. You have to just imagine about the extension of line D to E, then this right angle triangle AED you will refer. You will calculate the value of AE, which by mathematical method you can see its value comes to be 5 kilometer. The value of ED, which is equal to BC, will be equal to 20 kilometer, and then using Pythagoras theorem, the value of AD comes to be equal to 20.61 kilometer. To have idea about distance and displacement, one more numerical you can look to. Calculate the distance and displacement of minute hand of a clock in 2.5 round if the length of the hand is 5 centimeter. The length of the hand is actually equal to the radius of the circular path in which the hand is moving, and applying the formula of circumference, the distance can be calculated by this formula 2.5 into circumference, which stands equal to 78.5, and displacement will be equal to the diameter length of the circle. As after 2 rounds the body is back on the initial position, and remaining half round it is covering just the diametric length. So this is how we solve the sample questions. In this slide we will have discussion about some fundamental areas related to physics, and these are scalar and vector quantities and systems of unit. Scalar quantities are those quantities which require only magnitude for their complete description. Distance, mass, work, temperature, these fall in this category. On the other hand, vector quantities are those quantities which require both magnitude and direction for their complete description. Displacement, velocity, momentum, etc., these fall in this category. This can be understood with the help of an example of quantity force. Whenever we have to apply force on any body, we not only have to determine how much force has to be applied, that is a magnitude, also we need to determine in which direction the force should be acting. This explains how vector quantity is completely represented. Next to it, we'll have a look over systems of unit, which is the base study related to physics, and every physics student should be knowing about the different systems of unit. Here, there are basically 3 systems of unit: CGS, FPS, MKS. The first term of every system is related to length, the second term of the system is related to mass, and the third term is related to time. Say here C represents centimeter, G represents grams, S represents second. Similarly, F represents foot, P represents pound, and S represents second. In MKS, M is for meter, K is for kg, and S is for second. As a result of advancement in the field of systems of unit, nowadays we are using a universally accepted system, which is SI system of unit, and which includes total 7 fundamental units, including length, mass, and time. This was about systems of unit. Let's have discussion about another important portion of motion, that is speed and velocity. Speed term is well known to you from your junior class onwards. Velocity may be slightly new. What do we mean by speed? Speed is the distance traveled per unit time by a body. Velocity is distance traveled per unit time in a particular direction. That means in velocity, we have to specify the direction. It can be even defined as displacement per unit time. Following the definitions, the formula for both the quantities stands as speed is equal to distance by time and velocity is equal to displacement by time. Some more bullet points we have discussed about these topics. Let's have a look over these bullet points. SI unit of speed is meter per second. Equally, SI unit of velocity is meter per second. Different aspect of the two quantities are speed is scalar quantity, velocity is vector quantity. Also, you should note down speed is referred as rate of motion. Sometimes the question is asked in a manner, name the physical quantity which is referred as rate of motion. The answer will be speed. Let's have a look over to further the important discussions which are average speed and average velocity. Average speed is defined as ratio of total distance traveled to the total time taken by a body. The formula accordingly can be followed like average speed is equal to total distance by total time. Average velocity is defined as ratio of total displacement to the total time taken. Accordingly, the formula is here about. Let's now discuss some of the just a sample numerical related to this discussion in the next slide. Here is a question based on average speed and average velocity. The question says, a boy starts from his home, say spot P, and covers 500 meters during 30 minutes along straight line and reaches to another spot Q. He then continues towards spot R and covering 1 kilometer, taking 40 minutes, he is reaching to spot R. He then returns back and finally covering 1.5 kilometer in 90 minutes, he is reaching at a spot M. What we have to do to calculate average speed and average velocity during the whole journey. Now the whole question can be described in this diagram. He is starting from spot P, he is continuing till spot Q covering 500 meter means half kilometer, time is 30 minutes means half an hour. He then continues from Q to R which is 1 kilometer taking 40 minutes means 2 by 3 hours. He is then returning back from R. He covers 1.5 kilometer which is this 1.5. He is back on actually P which is mentioned here as M spot. That is P and M are the common spots that you have to identify. Then if you have to calculate average speed, applying the formula, first we'll calculate total distance, and total distance is just the summing the part of the journey which is PQ, QR, RM, or you can say even RP. When you add these all, you get the answer for total distance as 3 kilometer. Total time can be added and it is equal to 16 by 6 hours. You can further reduce it to the shortest form. Accordingly, the average speed is 9 by 8 kilometer per hour. On the other hand, total displacement will be 0. As finally we have discussed, he is coming back to the original point. So accordingly, applying the formula of average velocity, the answer for average velocity as total displacement is 0, the average velocity will also be equal to 0. So this is how do we calculate average speed and average velocity in a given situation. Now we are going to learn about uniform and non-uniform motion. When a body covers equal distances in equal intervals of time, it is said to be in uniform motion. For example, motion of a car on highway, train running between two distant stations, motion of Earth on its own axis. This is uniform motion information. Let's see what is non-uniform motion. When a body covers unequal distances in equal intervals of time, it is said to be in non-uniform motion. Some examples are motion of freely falling body, car on a busy road, a cyclist moving up or down through a slope. In all these cases, the body may maintain the time equal, but distances will be different. Now we'll have a discussion about two terms, uniform and variable speed. Variable speed can also be termed as non-uniform speed. When body is covering equal distances in equal intervals of time, its speed is known to be uniform speed. Whereas covering unequal distances in equal intervals of time, its speed will be known as variable speed. Similarly, we can have an idea about uniform and variable velocity. If body covers equal distances in equal intervals of time in a particular direction, its velocity is known to be uniform velocity. Otherwise, if covering unequal distance in particular direction, which also can be referred as unequal displacements in equal intervals of time, then its velocity is known to be variable velocity. This gives you idea about the two terms, uniform and non-uniform motion. This slide is covering all the important discussions what we had already brought forward in the previous slides. Just a quick review about important discussions. You can go through it one by one and note down for your further purposes to apply to solve the different questions or to understand the different situations. Thank you.